I'm an ordinary householder and I have an ordinary kitchen. And like so many other people, I've got a whole variety of kitchen knives, many of which were given to me or that I've bought over the years, and inevitably they go blunt. So from time to time, I sharpen these knives and they're an absolute delight to use. And so today I'm going to show a technique that anyone can use for sharpening household kitchen knives without having to go to the expense and bother of buying oil stones, whetstones and the like. So this is a very simple technique that any householder can actually safely do to sharpen their knives. And here is a variety of the knives that I have in my kitchen. I think so many people will be able to identify with this. Here's a lovely sabatier knife actually. So this must have been bought for me as some sort of gift at some stage. You can see the service it's done, completely worn off handle, and quite a nice knife. If you can hear the thinness of that steel there. So that's very good for sharpening. If you've got anything like that, that's a good candidate for becoming a sharp knife. Here's a little peeling knife. It says on it Oxford, so it's a nondescript make as far as I can see, just a regular knife. Here's a serrated knife, and many chefs absolutely, they say they hate serrated knives. I actually quite like them for cutting bread and any soft tomatoes or whatever. They're extremely good. But even this, which you would think is unlikely to get be able to improve an edge on that, you actually can with this technique. So I'm going to use this sabatier knife, which is a nice knife to use. It's ideal for putting a sharpened edge on. And the tool or the implement that I'm going to use is this sharpening steel. And many of you may already know what a sharpening steel is. It's actually an implement with serrations on, and when you use this in conjunction with the knife sliding down it, it puts an edge, it sharpens an edge basically onto the knife, obviously. So one of the first things you'll notice about this, it's got this disc at the end, which is a safety feature, if you like, to stop the knife when it's traveling down the sharpening steel, connecting with your hand. So everyone must use their own precautions, of course, but this is a very good safety precaution. So the idea of this is that you are passing the knife edge down at an angle, down this sharpening steel, and an ideal angle to use is a fairly shallow angle, about, shall we say, like this angle, which hopefully you can see. The idea is, and you'll have probably seen this in the butcher's shop or wherever, the knife gets repeatedly rubbed down the sharpening steel. And the technique here is to try and do this fairly quickly and altering each time, each pass, the angle of the knife. So for going down the top of this steel, you're going to use this angle, then you change angle to travel down the bottom of it. And so this is the technique, and you can begin to build up speed to get the job done faster, basically. And you can start off at this speed until you become confident at the angles, and you can see each time, each pass down the sharpening steel, I'm changing the angle. When I first started this, I would be hitting the end a lot, not getting the angle right, and it's just a skill that you start to build up. And I would say that if you do this once a week, perhaps when you're sharpening your knife for a Sunday roast or for whatever reason, you'll start to pick up a real technique, and then you can quite easily pick up speed. The natural speed that I go to is about this speed, and you begin to hear, and there's a couple of, not mistakes, but a couple of missteps I've just taken there. I'm no expert. I just I'm able to use a bit of technique to get a nice sharpened edge on my ordinary kitchen knives. This then makes the knives an absolute delight to use. So here we are now, picked up a bit of speed. You could go even faster, but I don't really see the point in that because you start to lose accuracy. So after about a minute on a very blunt knife, you start to get quite a decent sharpened edge. But if you have a very blunt knife, you might need to go on for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Keep on trying it, keep on testing it. And you can perhaps hear that. There's a nice noise that goes with a sharp knife, especially with a thin blade. So I'm going to get a tomato now and let's test how sharp this knife is. So here is a tomato, and it's absolutely ideal to test the sharpness of the knife because it's a little bit squidgy. So let's test it and see how sharp we have our knife. If it's not very sharp, it's going to press in and dimple on the tomato. If it's sharp, it's going to cut through it. Obviously, when you're cutting, a motion really helps cutting, so I'm not just going to press straight in. But let's have a look. And as you can see, it's cutting through this tomato quite nicely. Now, it could be a little bit sharper. I'm just going to give it a wipe and then I'm going to give it another sharpen. Because to get a really sharp knife, you have to perhaps do this sharpening exercise for not just about a minute, which is what I was doing it for, but maybe 5 minutes, especially on something that's gone really blunt. As I say, you can even get a little bit of an edge on these serrated knives. Very often, these blades are very hardened so that they'll keep the edge over the lifetime of a knife. I think they're deliberately made like that, not razor sharp, just sharp enough and very hard. But you can actually begin to put a slightly sharper edge even on a serrated knife. A little fruit knife, potato knife, whatever. Each one, as you can see, has got a slightly different approach. It's the same principle. You just have to get into it. There you go. Feel what's happening with the knife. So, you're not going to be perfect with this. I've had a fair bit of practice with this, and even I will, strike the end, even though I feel quite, comfortable with this over the years. So there we are. That's that knife also feeling quite good and sharp. So this is the technique. Anyone can do it. This is called a sharpening steel. Any kitchen knife really will benefit from it. But if you've got a good quality knife, like a Sabatier or anything else, they take really well to sharpening. And I don't know, I just think a sharp knife is an absolute delight to use. And so there's a quick and easy technique for bringing your knives sharp again in your kitchen.